Ready to dive in.
All right. Go ahead.
So yeah, I'll start a little bit about me. I have been a UX slash web designer for over 25 years now, and I've had the opportunity to work with a wide variety of agencies and companies, and just really being able to see the web and products from a lot of different angles. And it's been amazing to see how it's changed over the years. And one of the things that I have always really valued is having the kind of data, the kind of information that empowers good design decisions, good user experience decisions, just like the best ways to move forward. So I was really excited to dive into how AI can help with that UX research process and how it can really help us with getting the best data possible to make those decisions. So I'm going to dive right in here with the start of how we're going to break this up. And just for simplicity, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this up into two collections here. One is the data collection side, which is exactly what it sounds like, collecting all that raw data and information. It could be interviews, competitive audits, that this is just a small list of the different types of things that we can do there. And then, of course, going into that synthesis and organization, which is really taking that data, breaking it down, putting it into a place where we can start drawing conclusions from, start making recommendations, start like helping us to make that informed decision forward. So using it the right way, I've really found that AI can help a UX professional in both of these areas. So I'm going to dive into just a little bit into each of these areas, starting with data collection. And I'm going to focus on for this discussion, just focus on a competitive audit here. So as we kind of go through. So first, the data collection side of a competitive audit. And I'm going to use an example, completely hypothetical example here. Let's say we've been tasked with conducting research for a new major airline. So we're going to want to audit some major airlines currently and see how they approach, their presences, like maybe even specifically their homepage or some of those individual areas. So how do we get started with something like that? The first thing we want to do is start with a project setup. And for this example, I'm going to use ChatGPT. Obviously, there are a lot of different tools. They have different strengths, and it's good to explore those different tools. But for the purpose of this example, I'm going to use ChatGPT. And part of our job in working with AI is to make sure that whatever tool we're using, it has the information it needs for our partnership to be successful. So really everything that I have here, all of these elements, business strategy, demographics, again, this is just a small sampling, but all of this is context that we as UX designers would need as we're going into a new project anyway. So we're not adding a step by informing AI with this. It's just making sure that it has the same information that we do. So one of the things to call out is, like I say, existing data. That might be anything that you've done up till now. Maybe you've done some interviews, you have some statistics, some obstacles, whatever that might be. You want to give as much of that information as possible. And this is an effort that is often overlooked. For me personally, I've seen a huge difference in the kind of quality and value that I get out of using AI when I give it this kind of context and put the time needed to give it this type of context as we're going through. So after you get the general project set up, that's everything. Now we want to give it the context for whatever specific research effort we're doing. So in this case, we're talking about a competitive audit. So what is the context we would need? Like, what are the competitors? What are the different presences those competitors have that we want to include in our audit? What are the decisions we're looking for this audit to inform? Are we looking at this from a conversion lens or an efficiency lens? Maybe something else, maybe both of those, maybe something completely different. How deep do we want that analysis to go? And probably most important are examples. The more opportunities you can give examples of what a successful output looks like for AI, the better and more informed that AI will be. So how do we actually put this to work now? So on one hand, I have found a lot of value in just being able to challenge and check your assumptions, because that's always something that you want to be mindful of as a UX design, UX research, is making sure that your assumptions are challenged and checked along the way. So one way that we could use this is, now that it has all of that great context and data that we gave it, ask it, hey, with all this context, what are some things that I should really be targeting and looking for in this competitive audit? Now, here's a couple of examples of what it might say here that I have there listed on the right. But again, some of these I may have already thought of. Some of them I might not think is relevant, but almost always there's a couple that's like, wow, I didn't think about looking at it from that angle or that perspective. And it's that type of thing that allows you to kind of take a pause and look at something from a different perspective. And I found a lot of value in something like that. So that is challenging assumptions. But what if we go into like, how can we streamline this process? How can we do something to that effect? And here's just one example of what we might find. But what I have found is that AI really thrives when it's given a specific task with clear direction. So I, as a UX professional, I'm looking at Southwest. That's what this screenshot is here. And I find that there's this really great feature there where it has different tabs and you can look more than just flights, but also vacations and hotels and cars. And like, that's a really neat thing. So the first thing I'm wondering is that just an expectation for major airlines now, or is this something that Southwest is doing that is something unique or special? So I could ask a very specific prompt now that my project has all that context and say, hey, do these other competitors have this? And it would come back with, in this case, like JetBlue had it, Delta, United, but Frontier, that wasn't something it had. So that would be an example of how I can get some quick response just by having this partner with me as I'm going through to be able to help streamline and expedite the process. So here, these are just two quick examples of how this could work, but it kind of gives you an idea of how AI can really partner with the UX professional to make sure that both the quality and the efficiency of something like a competitive audit can really improve. So I'm going to shift now over to the synthesis and organization. I'm going to continue with the competitive audit. Okay, again, just to take this all the way through for this example. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shift over from this presentation and I'm going to share FigJam. And I have that right here. So what I'm going to show a little bit is how the built-in AI that Figma has, and this particularly in FigJam, could help us to really work with the synthesis and organization. So this first thing is an example of what maybe a bunch of different data points that we collected across these 5 competitors might be. So the first step that I found that really works is like, okay, let's just start organizing this. And FigJam has this great tool. I'm just going to grab a couple of these just to show, but you can organize it and you can basically just say, I want to sort things by topic. And that's that AI. It has, all these little elements of the AI pieces. And I just want to say, like, I just want to sort all of these if we selected all the stickies and sort it by topic for me, just so I can start breaking down what are some of the topics and themes. And it might, for speed things up. I already have that already done here. So this is what it would come back with. All of these different categories. Starts really breaking things down and you start seeing some of those themes, like you see the loyalty program and you see some visual hierarchy and personalization and these different elements. But this is a little much. So this is where I, as the UX professional, is going to go in and be like, all right, I want to break this down. I want to look at this and make this into a little bit more of a usable breakdown that, just given that my exposure, because I've gone through all these competitors myself. So I'm going to take this and then I'll refine this into something that feels a little bit more usable here. So I broke it up into fewer categories. I separated out the different competitors that I've been reviewing so I can start getting a quick visual of where the different weights are and how this is going to be. And now this is where AI becomes even more useful. When it has all that data, great, it can do a little bit. But now that this data is more refined and specific, and again, going back to what I was saying, that specific direction really helps. This is where you can start getting some good feedback. So I'm just doing an example on the promotional approach here. So if we take that and do that same summary, so like again, just taking this and doing that same summary by topic, but now it's dealing with a very focused element. So it gives me what we have right here, where we have it broke it down by like an urgency, ancillary services, loyalty programs, and the promotional style, and started breaking out. So it broke it out into a much smaller grouping that then I can look at and draw some of my conclusions for. So I want to look at each of these, like for urgency, for instance. We found that Frontier really focuses on urgency, but the other ones don't. That's something that Frontier does that's different than the other ones. And each of them I drew my own conclusions from. And then once again, I want to go back and be like, okay, did I bring some biases into my evaluation through each of these steps? And this is where I really want to see, like, what would the AI say about this? So going all the way back to all the stickies of all the different airlines, I just asked for a summary, and that's another AI feature in FigJam here. And I just looking at this summary, I'm doing this at the end on purpose. I don't want this to influence my evaluation, but I do want it as a check because there might be some things in here that's like, wow, I didn't see that. Well, that element or this, I didn't see that. That didn't call out to me. So let me go back into that data and see if that makes sense. And it might not, but it's worth that extra check. And I have found that, boy, oh boy, does that really help because there might be something that you're glossing over because I'm used to that, or that was my experience, or whatever it is. And this gives you a chance to look back into that data. And it's been really helpful. So I'm going to stop my show. We'll go back into the deck here. And here we are. Okay. So now going back in here, let's just talk about the lift. So we've talked about the collection, we talked about the synthesis, the organization. On a whole, what are we seeing as the lift that AI brings to the UX research process? And I know I just gave a very small example there, but really what I have found in my experience is it has really helped my turnaround time. Like something that would take, like a competitive audit might take a week, 5, 6 days. I can cut that down by nearly half just by the little compounding, streamlining efforts that go all the way through that. But also, all of that project setup, a lot of the time goes into that project setup that starts to really add to those efficiencies, which has given me something that, like, honestly, I hadn't even really thought about before I dove in, which was the broader analysis. In that shorter timeline, I've been able to do more competitors. Maybe a typical one would be 4 to 5. I can broaden that out to 8 to 10, which those extra touch points can really bring some perspective that I might not have had before. And it's been very helpful, especially being able to do that in a more condensed timeline and feeling like I'm getting everything I want out of it. I mentioned challenging assumptions many times, and that's a big lift that I've found for this. And maybe one that is even more important than all of this is the ease of repeatability, because it's something that is often left on the table when it comes to UX research is doing it again, being able to say like, all right, 6 months, these competitors probably changed, a year, maybe they changed. But now I have all that infrastructure to really speed up doing another competitive audit and doing that and seeing where are things now. That might not have been something that was done at all. And now it's really empowering that. So a huge advantage to that. That's been great. So those are just some of the lifts, but really just to bring back to those two collections, just to wrap up here, all I covered here was competitive audits, and then within the synthesis and organization, just the affinity diagramming and the summaries and highlights. So there's so much more. And there's all these elements, and I'd love to dive in more to this. But this does give an example of how it could really help with the UX process, and the more I learn, the more benefits I'm finding from it. So it's been really exciting.
Yeah, that's great, Chris. I mean, I think that there's so many things that stand out to me in there. And, obviously one of them is like the way you're using it to double back and both check your assumptions and make sure that you're finding new insights that you may have missed.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and I know you've got, other examples, and these are just the start of these lists. Do you have a plan to share any of these other, insights with anybody?
That's what I mean. Like, I would love anyone reach out if there's something in particular, because this is something I could just spend all day on and I love it. But I am going to go in, I'll do some extra videos on like, how would you set up the project? Because there are some nuance to that. And I've learned a lot and I'm continuing to learn, like diving into that. What are some of the details you want to give when you're setting up something specific around a competitive audit or a usability test. There's a lot of great setup for usability tests. So we could set up some other videos, some other posts to just give a little bit of detail there on what I found. And if anyone has to share some successes that they have, I would love to because I'm always learning on this too, and I'd love to hear
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, Chris is the lead of our expedition team and done a fantastic job at that. Uh, so what's your one takeaway? Like, what's the one
it.
thing that you're like, if you take one thing away from what I shared today, it's,
For me, all right, if I would say if there's one thing to take away, it is that I would say to reiterate your side is that the human element of this, because we're designing for humans. So the human element of the UX side, whether it's research, design, or any of that, that is always going to be an integral part of it. So AI can help with things, but the human element is really critical to any of the success. And there are ways you can plug in something into AI and just say, just do my competitive audit for me. And it's going to give you something that looks like a very thorough competitive audit. But it's not going to give the kind of insights that really help inform good decisions. So that human element in this is going to be a critical every step of the way.
yeah. Somebody asks in the chat,
Mm.
they're still wondering about the risks and right way to handle sensitive business data that might be part of the context you're creating for AI.
That I think that's a great thing. And honestly, I don't think there's a final answer to that. But I would always lean on being cautious about sensitive business data. So when you're giving context, it might not be able to have the same level of context that myself as a human looking at this, I might have some things that I'm just not going to give the AI, even if it has all those things about how don't share this and don't allow this to be part of it. That doesn't really matter. Like protecting, companies' data is the most important. So anything that's out there publicly, great, use it. When in this competitive audit, that was an example where it's like, go to all these websites. That's something that I want to look at. But if there are some elements of the business plan that is confidential, that is just not something that the AI is going to be privy to. And if you can give some generalizations there, that's great, but you have to lean on security.
Yeah. And I
But
think
it's a great question.
the other piece of it is you have to be using paid accounts for these things if you're going to even go
Yeah,
near that stuff.
yeah,
Accounts that aren't training the model that and are just doing analysis in a sandboxed way. I know that's really important for
yeah,
all of our client data and all of that is, we have a list of approved tools that their terms and conditions are set up in such a way that they don't train the model and, they're responsible for protecting that.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.